All right, so today we are going to do our practice landscape. So the first thing you need to do is grab a piece of paper out of the center. There's two sides. There's a matte side and a shiny side. And we want to write our name and hour number on the shiny side. And go ahead and turn that paper over. I've got my mixing palette here. I'm going to get a dime size amount. Remember to shake up your paints before you put them down on your paper. Just a real small amount of each color of paint. As you can see, we're working on pretty small canvas papers, so we don't need a ton. So I'm just gonna grab a little bit of each, and then I wanna make sure I have two brushes. I want a big brush and a little brush, because we're gonna use big brush for blending and the little brush for details. Leaving space in between my colors so I got plenty of room to mix. Big brush, little brush, I've got my paper towel, and we're ready to start. So we are gonna be working from background to foreground. It's always how we wanna do it. We wouldn't wanna have a sky on top of a tree. We wanna have the sky behind the tree. First thing that we're gonna do is start by picking up a little bit of purple. And I don't care about the table. I'm more concerned with you getting like a nice value blend there. So I'm taking just a single area of purple. It's probably an inch at the top here. Then I'm not gonna clean my brush. I'm just gonna dip straight into the pink. And at this point, I want to try to really mix them together. So I'm blending as I'm going farther down. I'm now about 2 inches down on that paper. I'm going to go into straight pink. And I'm going to clean my brush before I go into the orange. So I'm cleaning my brush. The reason why I want to clean my brush is the orange has a little bit of yellow in it, which we know is the complement of purple, which is going to cause the color to be polluted. So that's why I clean my brush. So now I've got my little bit of orange, and I'm gonna blend that in with the pink. So I've got a nice color blend happening. And this is where my horizon line is gonna start, okay? Now, the next most background element is gonna be my clouds, and I'm gonna get my smaller brush for this. With my clouds, I'm gonna take a little bit of black on my brush, and over here, I'm gonna try one technique, which is gonna be kind of a fluffy cloud. And you'll notice I'm picking up and setting down my brush a lot of different times. Okay, so that's one type of cloud. Another type of cloud we could have is one of those more wispy clouds, so we'll try that one over here. So here I've got my wispy clouds, so two different kinds of clouds. Now my next step is gonna be to get my background mountains in. And again, I'm gonna be doing that in black. This is a sunset scene. So a lot of stuff in the foreground and background is gonna be very silhouetted, which is a lot of black. So I go straight line on that horizon line. And then get my little mountain area going. Now within the mountain, I wanna add some texture because that's gonna make it look more realistic, and I wanna make sure it sits on top of that horizon line. So I'm gonna come in and do this kind of stippling technique on there. Okay, and then I'm gonna add a second background mountain a little closer to the ground there. Fabulous. Feel what's in your heart. If you feel like, oh, there's another little baby mountain, go for it. Most important thing is that it sits on that horizon line. Cleaning that brush with the black out of it. I'm gonna set that off to the side. I'm gonna go back to my big brush. Now we're gonna switch to water. And the difference with water is that we're gonna have more of a wavy stroke. So I'm gonna go the opposite direction because the water is gonna reflect the sky. So it's gonna be kind of opposite, but I'm gonna start with a little bit of yellow. Now you'll notice I'm messing up that black line a little bit. I'll go back and clean that up here in just a little bit. Okay, I'm gonna get my orange. And I'm wiggling my brush to get that texture of the water to go on there. After the orange, I'm gonna switch back to my pink. And I want to make sure I get that nice pure pink and purple on there. So I got to get the yellow out of my brush. So I'm cleaning my brush again. because complementary colors are going to turn brown, so I want to make sure that I plan accordingly. So I got my straight pink down, and now I'm switching over to that purple. Using that wiggly brush stroke to show that this is water. All right, now that I've got all my water filled in, it's time to come in with my foreground most element, which is gonna be a little island and a palm tree. This is paradise. I'm ready to go there now. All right, so I'm gonna start with my big brush with black again. And my little mountain is gonna start about halfway over, and it's gonna come up to about here. And it's gonna be a nice organic line, because remember, there's no straight lines in nature. And I'm gonna go ahead and do that stippling technique again on here to give it that texture. Fabulous. Go ahead and clean my brush. And now I'm gonna switch back to my little brush. I'm getting black again. Okay, palm trees can be kind of tricky. So we wanna start out, the base of the palm tree is gonna be thicker than the top. And I wanna give it an arch so it kind of fills in nicely here. So I'm gonna start here. I'm just gonna start with a single line. Okay, I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna thicken up the base or the trunk of the tree. And we want it to cover on top of some of these background elements. That's gonna give it depth, right? So we're creating space in here by layering things on top of each other, going from background to foreground. So now that I have my, I'm gonna do a little baby one here too. So it's farther back, it's smaller. We've got that diminishing size happening. Okay, now I gotta go with the branches of the palm tree. This is gonna be tough, but you got it. Kind of makes like a, I don't know, like a fireworks shape. So I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3, and then 4. So it kind of makes like a crazy little X. Now, this is clutch. Let me zoom in here so you guys see how to do this. So the palm leaves are gonna fall off of its branches. And kind of a similar feeling to how we did the eyelashes that we did on our portrait. So I'm getting all those little branches are going to be hanging down. I'm using my skinny brush so I can get all those details on there. And then I'll finish out on this side. Okay, I want to come in and go ahead and add that detail again to my baby tree down here, giving it a little bit of detail. Sorry, baby tree. All right. Now, I'm gonna bring in a foreground leaf here. So this is like I'm looking directly at a palm tree that's kind of covering part of my view. So I'm just gonna get the leaf going here. And that palm branch is gonna fall down like so. So that's gonna make it look more like it's in the foreground. And then this is an optional move, but the last thing I'm gonna do is add some birds. And I'm gonna draw those just like those little V's. If your brush is doing what my brush is doing, you gotta kind of spin it out to the side to get that nice point again. I've got my birds. Now, last thing I'm gonna do is come and just clean up this edge here. I wouldn't wanna do that if my palm tree was sitting on top of it, because then that would kind of confuse the viewer as to what was in front. But since it's a background element and there's nothing on top of it, I can go back and grab that. Same thing with over here. And that is going to be our practice landscape. Make sure you clean your brush and get ready to start that cleanup procedure. Nice job.